There are 11 different organ systems that make up the human body, and each one is very important to our overall functioning and survival. So what you see here on this slide in this image is just a really quick overview of the different systems. And now we're going to take some time to go through those different organ systems. We'll talk about the main components of them and then also the function or the role that they play for our bodies. So first up on the list is the integumentary system. The integumentary system is probably a system you're pretty familiar with already. You can see here in the image that this system is the external covering of our bodies, which in other words is the skin. So this external covering, if we talk about the general functions of the skin, first up is going to be that it is going to waterproof our body. Along the same lines, it is a covering on the outside, so it is going to provide some cushioning and some protection for the deeper tissues that are found underneath it. Another role that it plays is that it is very important for helping to regulate body temperature. Since this is the outer covering of the body, this is going to enable in some cases heat to escape and also us to kind of cool down as well. You've probably noticed before that if you are a little bit chilly, we get goosebumps, or if you're hot, maybe you sweat. So the skin is certainly playing a function in that, or playing a role in that, helping to regulate the body temperature. Another one is that the skin does contain some sensors for response to the environment. Since it is the outer part of our bodies, which is exposed to everything around us, there are going to be sensors there that are going to be continuously collecting information about what's going on the outside and sending that information to other control points inside of our body so that we will be able to respond to environmental changes. So that's the integumentary system. The next system we want to talk about is probably another one that you're really familiar with, and this is the skeletal system. The picture here shows you pretty much what the skeletal system is made of. The skeletal system contains bones, cartilage, ligaments, joints. So all of these are working together. And if we go over the functions of the skeletal system, first up is that it is going to provide some support for our body. Our body would not be able to stand upright and support all of the weight of our body without these rigid bones on the inside. So support is kind of number one on the list for the skeletal system, but that's not the only function that the skeletal system has. Another function is that it does provide a framework for the muscles to work against. So it provides a framework that the skeletal muscles can use to cause some movement. So it's working right along with the muscular system, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Another thing is that it does provide some protective function. There are some areas of our skeleton, such as the cranium or the ribs, if you think about the rib cage, and they have some vital organs just inside of them. So the ribs protect organs that are found interior. The cranium is protecting our brain from damage. So there is a protective function there. So they are encasing a number of different more sensitive organs and structures. The bones are also a location where we do get some production of some blood cells. So that's one of those functions that we don't tend to think about quite so much when we're talking about the skeletal system. And then a last function that we want to mention is that the skeletal system is going to provide for the location which is mineral storage. So it's going to provide a place where we can store minerals within the body. The next system is the muscular system. The muscular system is basically made up of the body's muscles. We have lots of different muscles, some very large, some very tiny, and the functions of the muscular system, they are going to contract and shorten. Each muscle is contracting and shortening, and when they contract and shorten, the end result of that is going to be that they produce movement. So we are able to move our various appendages to respond to the environment in ways that are necessary, depending on what that environment happens to be. Another system that we have, organ system, is the nervous system. The nervous system is our fast-acting control system. The nervous system is composed of the parts that you see here in this image. That's the brain, which the sensory receptor, we have the spinal cord, we have the nerves that are running throughout the body as well. As far as the functions of the nervous system, we said that it's the fast-acting control system. So one thing that it has to do is it has to detect changes in irritants or stimuli, and this could be stimuli exterior to the body, so on the outside in our environment, or it could be different areas within our body. So different regions of our body are going to have irritants or stimuli there, and the nervous system is going to be detecting those. Another thing that it does is it's going to communicate those changes that it detects. So it's going to communicate those changes or send messages to other areas. And in the end, it is going to be assessing the information that it's collecting, assessing those messages that it's collected, and then it's going to respond in some way to those messages. That's our fast-acting control system. The endocrine system is going to be what we consider to be the slow-acting control system. And this slow-acting control system, it is composed of a lot of different glands. You can see a list of the glands here in this picture. And these glands, they're located throughout the body. They come in different shapes and sizes. And these glands are primarily responsible for producing hormones. The functions of the endocrine system, first of all, is producing those hormones. Each gland is going to be producing different hormones. Those hormones are going to function in the regulation of a variety of body functions. As far as what those functions are, we do have some that regulate our mood. We do have some that regulate growth and development, some reproductive processes. It's a long list that these are actually regulating. But in general, these are going to be slower responses, not the same type of really quick response that you get with the nervous system. The cardiovascular system is also a very important organ system that we do have in humans. The cardiovascular system is what I like to think of as the transportation system. Sometimes you also see it called the circulatory system, which is also a good descriptive term for this one. This is going to involve the heart and the blood. It also has some veins and arteries or blood vessels, and this is going to be located throughout the body. So pretty much everywhere we're going to find the cardiovascular system. The functions of the cardiovascular system, first off, is transportation. The blood is the vehicle for transporting a variety of things around. This is going to include oxygen, which is crucial for our cells. It will include nutrients, it will include hormones, and a variety of molecules. So it will pick up molecules from one location in the body and then transport those to another location. At the same time, the white blood cells especially, they do play a role in protection against foreign invaders. The lymphatic system is going to be composed of lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, and then some other smaller structures. Its functions are that it's going to work in conjunction with the cardiovascular system, and it's basically going to return fluid to the blood, and it's also going to help cleanse the blood. And that goes along with that function of returning fluid to the blood. It is also going to house some cells that are really important for immunity. The respiratory system is all about breathing. And this tends to be one that we're a little bit more familiar with because it's a little more obvious to us what's going on with this one on an everyday basis because we're very aware of our breathing at times. So the respiratory system, the parts of it include the nasal passages, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and the lungs. So basically it is going to include everything from our nose and our throat down into the lungs. So it's a bunch of connected passageways to the lungs. And the function of the respiratory system is first off to supply the body with oxygen. So if you think about what happens when you breathe, we inhale. And what we're inhaling, the most important thing that we're inhaling is the oxygen. So we need to get that in. And then the second part of the respiratory system is that we're going to then exhale. and the exhale is going to be removing carbon dioxide from the body. So we don't want carbon dioxide to build up on the inside of our bodies, so we're going to exhale that back to the environment. The next organ system is the digestive system. The digestive system is basically a tube that runs from the throat down to the anus. And so there's a lot of bits and pieces in the middle there in between that, but it is essentially a tube. So you have a place at the beginning where food can enter the body, and then at the end you have a place for things to exit that did not get completely broken down. So as far as the functions of this one, first off, it is going to break down food. So we eat food, and then we have the digestive system that is going to be slowly breaking down that food. And the purpose of that is so that later we can get the energy out of that food and we can use it to run all different types of reactions inside of our cells. The digestive system is then going to deliver the products of the food to the blood. So it's breaking down the food and then putting those products into the bloodstream. It will also be responsible for eliminating the undigested food. So things that our bodies are not able to break down, things like fiber, they are going to continue to pass through this long tube. And then at the end, a last function is going to be to reclaim some water back for the body. The urinary system. The urinary system, you can see the parts of the urinary system listed here in the picture. This includes the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, the urethra. What does the urinary system do? Okay, well, the urinary system is responsible primarily for removing nitrogen-containing waste from the body. So it will remove waste. It's also very important for maintaining the body's water balance. Along the same lines, it's important for maintaining the body's salt balance or salt concentration. And then it also plays a role in regulating the acid-base balance of the blood. So it has a role in regulating the balance of a lot of different things, in addition to actually getting rid of those nitrogen-containing wastes. Okay, the last system that we're going to introduce here, the last organ system, is kind of a two-part system depending on whether we're talking about males or females, and this is the reproductive system. The reproductive system is a system of structures that function in sexual reproduction. So again, if it's a male, the system is going to be different from if we're talking about a human female. The functions of the reproductive system, I think you are aware of these functions. First off is to produce the egg and sperm. So these are what we would call the sex cells. These are the cells that are important for that reproductive process. But besides just producing the egg and sperm, if we do have fertilization take place, then within the female reproductive system, there's also a location where that developing egg, which is going to become the fetus, where that is actually going to grow and develop more. So the reproductive system in the males is primarily for sperm production. In the females, it's going to be for egg production and then development of the embryo and later fetus. So that's a look at our organ systems, the different ones that we have. Now, our organ systems, they must work together. So they work together constantly with each other. None of them are really working in isolation for sure. And this picture right here shows you how they do interact with each other, an example of how they interact with each other. So we can see here that if I just label it up here at the top, that the digestive system is the one that we said is a tube that runs through the body. The food comes in and then it gets broken down as it moves through that long tube. As it moves through the tube, the nutrients are going to be extracted from the food, and then the nutrients are going to be passed to the bloodstream. And the bloodstream would be the cardiovascular system. So right there you have two systems working together. The blood system or the cardiovascular system is going to circulate those nutrients around the body, deliver them to the locations that need them, and then at the same time, they are going to deliver, or the cardiovascular system is going to deliver the waste to the urinary system. So we can see that happening right here, and that will ultimately help us to get rid of those nitrogen-containing waste products. We can also see the respiratory system up here. So the respiratory system is going to be inhaling that oxygen, getting that oxygen into the lungs so that we can get it into the cardiovascular system, which again will deliver that oxygen to whatever cells are needing it throughout the body. So again, this image here is just illustrating to us that there is definitely interactions between the variety of the systems that we do have. There's a lot of different examples that could be used showing how the systems interact with each other. This is really just a beginning look at it. So we've got 11 organ systems. They are working together to run our body. Now, as far as what they ultimately have to do is they have to perform the necessary life functions for humans. There are certain things that we must do in order to survive. So if we go through the list of necessary life functions for humans, one of the first things that we have to be able to do, or that our cells have to be able to do, is they have to maintain boundaries. What we mean by maintain boundaries is, first off, if we're talking about a cell is going to have a covering on the outside, and that covering is going to keep the internal components inside, and it keeps the outside stuff on the outside. And so it has a boundary there on the surface of the cell. Our skin does the same thing for us at an organism level. So it is the boundary that separates our insides from the external environment. So that's function number one that has to be taken into account. The next one is movement. When we're talking about movement, I think the one that first comes to mind is talking about our entire body moving. So our arms moving, our legs moving, our head moving. But that's not the only kind of movement that we're talking about here. We also have to have movement within the body. So when we're talking about the blood circulating, that would be in this movement category. When we're talking about the intestines moving around, that would be in the movement category. Okay, so movement. We also have to be able to respond to the environment. So when we respond to the environment, we've got to be able to take in stimuli and then react to those stimuli. The nervous system is going to play a major role in the response to the environment. Digestion is important. We have to be able to take in food and extract the nutrients from that food. Our cells require energy. The activities that we perform require energy, and digestion is going to help us get that energy. Metabolism. Metabolism is all the reactions inside the cell. So this is a lot of reactions. It's a very conclusive term, really. This includes reactions that break molecules down. It also includes reactions that actually build molecules up. It would include reactions that are going to be responsible for the construction of new cells and new tissues. So metabolism requires a lot of energy, so that will rely on the previous function, the digestive function. Excretion. We have to be able to get rid of waste. Okay, so the excretory system is playing a big role in the excretion. That is something that must take place all of the time. We have to get rid of any waste that are generated throughout our normal body processes. Reproduction, sexual reproduction specifically when we're talking about humans. So this is going to be us producing offspring. So we talked about the fact that we've got to get that egg and sperm, and then those are going to be used to produce new humans. And then lastly, another thing that is very important for humans is that we need to be able to grow and develop. And so obviously a baby is different from a human adult. And this is going to be due to a lot of cells that are being produced, cells that are dying off. It's a very controlled development process, but you may have noticed before that this does change the overall structure of the body a little bit. So how big something is, or the proportions of the body, and also the organs that are inside the body. So our organ systems are 11 organ systems. They are working together so that we are able to ultimately perform these necessary functions that you see on this list.